Look at your hand right now, whatever shade it is. That color didn't come from nowhere. It came from one of the longest, strangest negotiations in the history of life on Earth. And the wildest part, it wasn't random. It wasn't an accident. It was a survival story. A slow-motion biological bargain between your ancestors and the sun. And the sun, for the record, was absolutely not playing fair. If you trace the human family tree all the way back, every single one of your ancestors had dark skin. Every single one. Not most of them. Not the majority. All of them. Around 300,000 years ago, when Homo sapiens first appeared in Africa, the entire species was dark-skinned. There were no pale people. There were no fair-skinned populations anywhere on the planet. The concept of light skin didn't even exist yet in humans. Think about that. Every ancient civilization, every mythology, every cave painting, all of it traces back to a single founding population that looked nothing like a significant chunk of the modern human species. So at some point, something changed. And that change was so powerful, it reshaped the physical appearance of entire populations across multiple continents over tens of thousands of years. So what happened? The pigment that gives skin its color is called melanin. And melanin is, in the most literal biological sense, a sunscreen, a natural built-in UV filter. The more melanin your skin contains, the darker it appears, and the better it blocks UV radiation from penetrating into the layers where your DNA lives. Dark skin isn't just a look, it's a shield. In Africa, under some of the most intense UV radiation on the planet, evolution selected hard for dark skin. More melanin meant better protected DNA, lower cancer risk, and longer survival. But melanin does something else almost nobody talks about. UV radiation doesn't just attack your skin cells, it also destroys something in your bloodstream. Something small, invisible, and critically important. Folate, a form of vitamin B9. Folate is essential for the development of the neural tube in embryos, the structure that becomes the brain and spinal cord. Without sufficient folate in the first weeks of pregnancy, sometimes before a woman even knows she's pregnant, the neural tube can fail to close properly. The consequences are catastrophic. Severe developmental abnormalities. Dark skin in Africa wasn't just useful, it was essentially mandatory for the survival of the species. Then, between 70,000 and 100,000 years ago, groups of Homo sapiens started leaving Africa. No dramatic event, no meeting, just slow generational drift. A group moves a little further than their parents. Their children move further still. Over thousands of years, humans spread through the Middle East, into Europe, across Asia. And as they moved north, something fundamental changed. The sun got weaker, not the sun itself. The sun remained exactly as indifferent and nuclear as always, but at higher latitudes, sunlight hits Earth at a lower angle. It passes through more atmosphere. UV radiation gets filtered out. Days are shorter. Winters are long and dark. And suddenly, dark skin, which was perfect in Africa, became a problem. Not because of cancer, not because of folate, because of vitamin D. Vitamin D is synthesized in the skin when UV radiation hits a specific compound. Your skin is literally a solar panel, using sunlight to manufacture this essential molecule. And vitamin D is not optional. Without it, calcium doesn't get properly absorbed. Without calcium, bones don't mineralize. In children, severe deficiency causes rickets, softened, deformed bones, bowed legs. In women, it softens the pelvic bones, making childbirth extraordinarily dangerous, sometimes impossible. Now put a dark-skinned person in Northern Europe 40,000 years ago. Their melanin UV they need to make vitamin D. Their skin can't tell the difference between dangerous UV I should block and useful UV I desperately need. It just blocks. Bones weaken, children develop rickets, women die in childbirth. Dark skin in northern latitudes, in a world with no supplements and no fortified food, was a death sentence stretched across generations. And evolution, that cold, merciless, endlessly patient calculator, started selecting against it. Mutations that reduced melanin production spread because individuals with slightly lighter skin made slightly more vitamin D, had slightly healthier bones, slightly higher reproductive success. Generation after generation, slightly lighter, slightly lighter, slightly lighter. For a long time, scientists assumed this happened gradually over hundreds of thousands of years. Ancient DNA analysis has completely demolished that assumption. The most famous example, Cheddar Man. He lived in what is now Britain approximately 10,000 years ago. DNA analysis, published in 2018, revealed he likely had dark to medium dark skin, dark curly hair, and blue eyes. A combination that looks paradoxical now, because we associate blue eyes with pale skin. But 10,000 years ago in Britain, that was simply what people looked like. The extremely fair skin we associate with Northwestern Europeans today spread widely only in the last 6,000 to 8,000 years. In the full 300,000 year history of Homo sapiens, that's less than the last 3%. So what happened 6,000 to 8,000 years ago? The Neolithic Revolution. Farming. When humans switched from hunting and gathering to agriculture, their diet changed completely. Hunter-gatherers ate fatty fish, organ meats, shellfish, among the richest dietary sources of vitamin D in existence. Farming populations ate mostly cereals, wheat, barley, oats, rye. Their dietary vitamin D didn't just drop, it collapsed. Suddenly, populations that had been getting by on a combination of UV synthesized and diet sourced vitamin D were now almost entirely dependent on what their skin could produce. And if their skin was still fairly dark, that wasn't enough. The selection pressure for lighter skin intensified dramatically, and farming populations were large, dense, and connected, meaning a beneficial mutation could spread through thousands of descendants in just a few generations. The result? The fast forward button on European depigmentation got pressed. Here's something that will genuinely surprise you. East Asians and Europeans both have significantly lighter skin than equatorial Africans. But the genetic variants responsible for lighter skin in East Asians are largely different from the variants responsible in Europeans. They arrived at the same outcome through completely different molecular routes. This is called convergent evolution. The same solution independently discovered through different genetic pathways by separate populations on separate continents. The evolutionary pressure was so strong and so consistent that natural selection found the same answer multiple times, independently. When evolution keeps reinventing something from scratch, that's as clear a signal as biology ever sends you. And then there's blue eyes. Every single person alive today with blue eyes is descended from one specific individual, one person, one mutation, somewhere around the Black Sea region, approximately 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. Before that person was born, the entire human species had brown eyes. Blue eyes are younger than agriculture, younger than Stonehenge, younger than the domestication of the horse. The version of humanity we think of as ancient and fixed is still being written. So here's what all of this actually means. Skin color, the thing that has shaped political systems, justified atrocities, divided people into hierarchies for millennia, is at its biological core a UV calibration system, a dial. Your body's best estimate of how much sunlight protection you need, based on the latitude your ancestors happen to inhabit and the food they happen to eat. Light skin isn't better. In equatorial environments, it's actively dangerous. More UV penetration, more DNA damage, more folate destruction. Dark skin isn't less evolved. It's the original configuration, the baseline, the default. If anything, lighter skin is the newer version, the adaptation, the variation. And the deepest irony of all, we built an entire civilization's worth of prejudice around a vitamin D problem. Every skin tone that exists today is the product of the same ancient population, standing in the African sun, slowly spreading across an unpredictable planet, carrying written in melanin the precise record of every environment their descendants passed through. Every skin tone is an answer to a question asked by a star. If this changed how you think about the person next to you, leave a comment. And the next video is about something else your body does that has a stranger history than you'd ever expect.